high on the highest mountain, in the forest, in the desert, you can see God's creation.
Welcome to this episode which deals with the Aqeeda or the creed. As we know, Islam is based on 6 articles of faith and 5 pillars of Islam. The very first one of both is to believe in the oneness of Allah, as we express it in the words La ilaha illallah, which means there's no true God except Allah. When we're talking about God, we know that the term God applies to even phony or fake gods. Therefore, we have to understand one thing. That is, when you say La ilaha illallah and you want to translate it into English, we read everywhere, there's no God but God, which is not right. It is not right, because there are gods beside Allah. Thousands of gods to begin with. Could be animals, could be trees, could be anything. Stones, human beings, but there's something to make Allah stands out in this testimony, which means there is no true God except Allah. This is the meaning of La ilaha illallah. There is no true God except Allah, or there is no God who is worthy of being worshipped other than Allah. Therefore, we have to understand La ilaha illallah. It has 2 pillars. The first pillar is La ilaha. There is no true God. La ilaha, there is no true God. The other pillar is illallah, except Allah, which means the first pillar is negation. That means we negate divinity of any gods other than Allah. And the second part is confirmation. We confirm divinity to Allah alone. La ilaha illallah. There is no true God except Allah. Now this one thing. The other thing I'd like to draw your attention to it, which is very important. Now when we say La ilaha illallah, quite a few, all the Muslims say La ilaha illallah. In other words, all the Muslims profess this testimony of faith. But just to say La ilaha illallah, don't take it for granted that you're going to end up in Jannah or the heavenly garden. We have to also understand that La ilaha illallah has conditions. La ilaha illallah has conditions. The very first condition, which is knowledge, according to our scholars, they have really deduced from the texts of the Quran and the Sunnah these conditions. The very first condition is knowledge. In other words, when you say La ilaha illallah, you have to make sure that you know the meaning of La ilaha illallah. If somebody who says La ilaha illallah without knowing it, you would not be able really to fulfill its conditions. You would not be able to understand the real concept of La ilaha illallah. So when we say the first condition is knowledge, that is to know these 2 pillars that I just mentioned, that is to confirm, to negate and confirm, negate that there is no God, no true God other than Allah. And the second part, you confirm it and say illallah. In other words, there is no true God except Allah. There is no God who deserves to be worshipped except Allah. And Allah says in the Quran, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Therefore, you should know that there is no true God except Allah. And that's how our scholars deduced this condition from this verse of the Quran. فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Therefore, know that there is no true God other than Allah. This is one thing. The second condition is certainty. In other words, when you say La ilaha illallah, you have to be certain about it. It's not a matter of word of mouth. You just express it, you profess it without being sure. So Allah Ta'ala makes it really incumbent on us. Whenever we say La ilaha illallah, we have to be certain about it. The second condition is that love. When you say La ilaha illallah, you have to love this testimony of faith. Loving it means you actually meet all its requirements. When you love it, you also have to love those who profess it with you. In other words, this is really based on mutual love, that Islam is based on it. This is the love for the sake of Allah. And we also have to make sure submission, another condition of La ilaha illallah. That means we have to submit. We have to submit wholeheartedly to the conditions, to the requirements of La ilaha illallah. Let me explain it further. Listen, Allah Ta'ala created the whole universe for the sake of one thing. That is to say, that Allah Ta'ala created the whole universe in order for Him to be acknowledged by His slaves. As what? As the only true God who deserves to be worshipped. And He is the only one who brought the whole universe into existence for that purpose. We also have to acknowledge the requirements of La ilaha illallah in a way that we will be content with it. In other words, we have to live it up. You see, you can't just say La ilaha illallah and you forget about it. In order to be really rewarded for it, all of us really, we know that we are going to end up underground. We're going to die at one time or another. You see, what are you going to be actually hoping for on the day of resurrection? We will be hoping for that Allah will reward us for this La ilaha illallah. You see, that's why all these conditions that La ilaha illallah has, it means that we have to abide by the commands of Allah and the commands of His Messenger. May Allah exalt His mention. It's very important, brothers and sisters. When we are talking about the conditions of La ilaha illallah, that means we have to meet all its requirements, fulfill its requirements. That is to say, when we are commanded to perform prayer, that is the regular ritual daily prayers. You know, it's not enough to say La ilaha illallah and you neglect the second pillar after La ilaha illallah, which is a prayer. So it's very important for a Muslim, in order to be considered as believer, and in order to be rewarded on the day of resurrection, is to make sure that these conditions are met, and he fulfills all the requirements of La ilaha illallah. Why? You want to come out of this world, you know, to be truthful in La ilaha illallah, which is another condition. In order to be truthful about it, you will be able to say La ilaha illallah at the point of death. That's why the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah exalt his mention, said, anyone whose last words in this world, La ilaha illallah, will be admitted into Jannah. And you definitely wants to be admitted into Jannah as a result of not only professing La ilaha illallah, but fulfilling its conditions and fulfilling its requirements, so that you'll be able, when the angel of death is just about to take your soul out, to say La ilaha illallah. And this will be the utmost success, not only in this world, but in the hereafter, so that at the end you'll be admitted into the heavenly garden that Allah Ta'ala has prepared for the believers. We ask Allah Ta'ala to make us all amongst those believers who will be admitted into the heavenly garden as their final abode. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.